So hello everybody, thank you very much for joining December's Microsoft licensing webinar with myself, Ian Gerard. I'm one of the Microsoft licensing consultants here at Ultima, and you can see my contact details up there. You will all be aligned. You will all be aligned to a Microsoft licensing specialist. But as you can see, those are my contact details up there. Thanks very much for joining the webinar this month. What we'll be looking at is some of the recent changes which we've had in the Microsoft licensing world over the last couple of months, and how those will impact you and your organization moving forwards in the future. We will look at some of the changes with the move from an on-premise environment to Office 365, with the Skype for Business updates as well. And then we'll review some of the other changes, specifically some of the product and agreement changes. I start to think a little bit around why Microsoft are making these changes. And then finally, we'll be looking at what this really means for the future. What are those questions you should be asking yourself as an organization? Now, one of the first updates that we do have is very much the dual use rights. It's very much the dual use rights with Office 365. Now, this is something that was actually due to expire on the 1st of January next year. And as you can see, it's actually been extended out to the 1st of August 2019. But what am I actually talking about? So effectively, if you had a on-premise environment with Core Cal, Office Professional Plus, and you were moving, Office Pro Plus and you're moving to Office 365 E3, you would qualify for something called From SA, and this would be a concession that Microsoft allowed you to effectively help you transition from that on-premise environment to Office 365. And specifically, I'm talking around the dual use rights that came with the version of Office. What this means is that that version of Office Professional Plus within Office 365, well, it actually allowed you to deploy the perpetual version of Office. So, for example, if you wanted to deploy Office 2016, as opposed to running straight to the Office 2019 click to run version only, if you wanted to keep that MSI download deployment, then you can absolutely do that with the From SA SKU. Now, you only got this if you'd kind of come from spending at least 3 years previously on premise, but this is a dual use right, which really was helping organizations transition. Now, this has been extended to the 1st of August. So this is a really significant change. And this is something you need to understand as an organization, whether this is something which, whether your applications are going to be your third-party applications, whether they're okay to actually work with the latest version of Office, because you won't be able to use that perpetual copy from the 1st of August 2019 if you already qualified for that From SA SKU. Other things that have been updated are always worth looking at: the move from Skype for Business towards Teams in regards to how this all works. Well, I think when we're thinking about Skype for Business, we do need to remember some of the features. Oh, sorry about that. We do need to remember some of the features that currently. There we go. Apologies for that. We do need to say some of the features that are currently available, and basically, when you're looking at your functionality within Skype, whether it's the online presence, that little dot above the name, or whether it's sharing your screen or instant messaging or doing the conferencing, actually all of that functionality is going to be replicated within Teams, plus more. Plus more around some of the document collaboration side, and some of the team sites as more of a collaboration tool. Now, we are seeing all of those features and all of that functionality moving from Skype for Business to Teams. So there's going to be no new licensing required. There's actually going to be no price increase or change in the model either. And when we're talking about the model of licensing with Skype for Business, it's the traditional license the server, then license the individual with a CAL if it's on premise. And obviously with the move to Skype to the cloud, it is Skype for Business Plan 1 and Skype for Business Plan 2. And then you have the additional licenses, the additional add-ons to get what, if you like, the E5 functionality, which really for Skype for Business is telephony. So there's that audio conferencing and that phone system. Those two are always going to kind of remain individual components that you buy individually. So you can kind of get up to the enterprise level of functionality with Skype for Business, which is basically conferencing. It's making conferences from one to many. People being able to dial into those conferences, be recorded, hosted. So pretty much all the functionality apart from being able to make and receive external calls. So those are always going to be two separate additional licenses, and that's still very much staying the same. They are going to remain separate and are required for telephony. What is interesting is that move from Skype for Business to Teams, and it is worth noticing that from the 1st of October, any new users under 500 are actually going to be onboarded straight to Teams. They're actually going to have no access to the Skype for Business branding, if you like. Like I said before, still all the same features and functionality, but in actual fact, we've been seeing from the 1st of October for new customers under 500, you are going to see being onboarded straight onto Teams with no access to kind of Skype for Business. So really, in the next 18 months, that move is going to be pretty aggressive for Microsoft. But like I say, no change in cost, no change in licensing, and no change in features or functionality. I think it's probably worth covering off some of the other recent news and updates now. These are kind of mainly from November. But one of the first ones is regarding CSP. So CSP has always been a newer agreement from Microsoft, which offers you to purchase your cloud licenses on a month-by-month basis, rather than having to sign up to a MPSA for a year or an EA for 3 years. With CSP, you can buy the licenses you need when you need them and simply adjust those every single month. Obviously, it's cheaper than buying it directly on the website via the credit card, because the credit card does allow the same, but this is in that invoice model. Well, from the 31st of October, you can now actually bill online for a whole year. So you do still have the option to have that great flexibility, but CSP from the 31st of October does now offer that annual billing. With Dynamics, we're seeing more and more new applications coming out. We're seeing more and more complexity, and really now we're seeing that whole new wave of new AI apps being available within Dynamics. And all I would encourage you there is please contact us to learn more, and we can kind of get in contact with Microsoft or the expert Dynamics third party. When we're looking at some of the other software assurance benefits, the home use program will now have Office 2019 included. So if you've got software assurance on Office, this is the ability to buy Office, your employees being able to buy Office for themselves at a vastly reduced cost, usually around £12, £13. Well, Office 2019 is now included within that. It is something that it is being phased out by Microsoft. So it is worthwhile bearing in mind it is still available, but now customers will only be receiving it if you commit to over 2,000 users on Office 365. So like I said, if you're buying Office with software assurance on premise, it's fine. You still have that home use program. With Office 365, Microsoft would argue, well, actually, one of your users, you can say, well, one of their home devices is now qualifies as one of their devices. It's not quite the same because they're not owning it themselves perpetually, but actually, if your organization now has more than 2,000 users, the home use program is going to be available for Office 365 users. There's the RDS CALs, significantly as an on-premise license, now being added to the CSP agreement. In fact, there are a few on-premise licenses on that CSP agreement now, the Windows Server Standard and the Windows Desktop, and the RDS CAL is now part of that. So again, with CSP now being able to do whole yearly billing. We are actually seeing some on-premise licenses coming onto the CSP as well. E-learning from the 1st of November is going to be free to all customers. Again, previously was a software assurance benefit, but it's now called something called Microsoft Learn. It's an online training courses for your end users to get them skilled up in regards to being able to use it more easily, whether that's Office, Exchange, PowerPoint, Excel. Well, this is now going to be free to all customers, or has been free to all customers since the beginning of last month. The Microsoft 365 is Microsoft's SKU. Microsoft 365 is the one where it's Office 365, it's the mobility suite, and it's the desktop suite. It's the one with the highest discounts, the most funding, and the most attention from Microsoft. And previously, if you bought this single SKU, you still have to go in and deploy each line, each single line on the admin portal. Well, Microsoft has said, well, actually save time, actually make yourself 60% more efficient. This M365 can now be deployed as a single SKU, which will vastly reduce the time taken to allocate those licenses out to your users. Azure and reserved instances, probably still the area most strategically where Microsoft are focusing their time, focusing their technical resources with new releases and competitive pricing changing every single month. Reserved instances, which is again an ability to kind of lock down a particular virtual machine or Sage or SCADA machine workload and have a reduced price for that. Well, actually now Linux software, or from the 30th of October, Linux software is now being introduced into that. So we've kind of seen the bare base compute that's now been extended to this reserved capacity, and now here we are, including some of the competitive software as well. And really the final point there is around Office Pro Plus. Is just around some of the support around that. So Office Pro Plus or Office 2019, Office 365 Pro Plus is going to be supported on Windows 8.1 until January 2023. It's going to be supported on Windows Server 2016 up until October 2025. But with Windows 7, you can get paid extended support, and that will take you up to January 2023. I did just want to cover some of the price increases again back from October. It's always worth covering those and bearing those in mind, especially if you're coming up to renewal and you're suddenly wondering why or how those prices have gone up so much. Really, Microsoft, again, they released a 4% global price increase on all products and all agreements. And that was on-premise, whether you were in the US, the UK, or Asia, wherever you were. 4% price increase. They had effectively put an additional 15%, maybe up to 18% on some products, on the on-premise products from Microsoft. Excuse me a moment. So as we can see here, these are some of the breakdowns of the price increases that we did see. As you can see on all of the on-premise products, such as the Core CAL, the Enterprise CAL, the on-premise servers, you will see the biggest increase, up over 30%, on the RDS, those remote desktop services CALs. But as you can see, it's pretty much across all products. So it is worth bearing that in mind when thinking about getting quotes or looking at renewals. Those are just some of the price increases. Now, obviously, these slides will be made available, and there were other changes that did happen on the 1st of October, and I'll come on to the why in a second. But some of those other changes, as you saw, well, first of all, on-premise pricing going up, but actually seeing some of the licensing models change in the on-premise world as well. With Windows 10, for example, always traditionally, Microsoft, past 30 years, we've been buying this as a per device-based license. It kind of comes in two flavors now. It's either Windows 10 E3 and Enterprise E3, or Windows 10 Enterprise E5. Actually, when you buy a PC, it will come with an OEM copy of a license on there. That OEM copy will be Windows 10 Pro, and that will include things like BitLocker and all of that great stuff. Then if you want to move to Windows 10 Enterprise, that's when you're buying a volume license on top. It's actually called an upgrade license because you're upgrading that OEM license from Windows 10 Professional to Windows 10 Enterprise. Now, this Windows 10 Enterprise itself comes in two flavors. It kind of comes in two versions. It's E3 or it's E5. E3, so branch caching, direct access, AppV, that virtualized desktop, MEDV, all of that stuff is within that E5. So really all E5 offers in addition is Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection. What we're saying now, what Microsoft is saying now, is that Windows 10 E5, that Advanced Threat Protection, is actually only going to be available as a per device. Sorry, is no longer going to be available as a per device license, only available as a per user. So this is again just seeing that shift. E3 still per device or per user, but I think what we're seeing is a shift towards that per user subscription, that online subscription, getting things to be rented online, like for cloud. Like I say, there was no increase. When I mentioned all those price increases, actually there was no increase in CSP. So it was probably the only agreement to avoid price increases. It was a cloud agreement, but again. There's many products that the CSP doesn't offer at the moment. Office 2019, there were some new restrictions brought in, but mainly I mentioned regarding the dual use rights that's been extended to the 1st of October, but also that lack of compatibility with Windows 7 unless you have that extended support. So really, it's really worth exploring why Microsoft are making these changes, and there's it's part of their modern commerce vision strategy, if you like, but it's certainly to push their cloud offering rather than organisations sweating assets for a period of 6, 7, 8 years. The Microsoft are looking to technically remove the capabilities to do that. Say you can't have the dual use rights. Actually, that's not going to work with the latest operating system, so on and so forth, by making that refresh cycle so much more expensive, in some cases up to 30%, and just say, well, actually with Office 365, the price increase is less, there's more flexibility, there's more functionality, and it'll work. Some of the features will allow you to migrate. So there's no doubting that that's what their overall strategy is. Microsoft are saying that they're trying to establish a single consistent price. To be fair, there's been multiple agreements. You had Open or EA or Select or MPSA or CSP or Direct. So Microsoft are really trying to streamline all of their agreements to make it easy for you, an organization, to choose the right agreement for you. In theory, with the price increases, if every agreement has got the flat pricing, then really what you're choosing is really what brings me the most value, what brings me the most added value. I'm going to buy this license, but who's going to help me deploy it? And therefore, you're going to look at the partners, or whether it's directly with Microsoft, those who will support you through that whole process and the consumption, really recognizing the value from your investment. Microsoft are kind of removing some of the programmable discounts. So when it does come to things like enterprise agreements, they can say, hey, we've given you this massive discount, because they're kind of putting the prices up to then discount them. If you see, it's not rocket science, but that's certainly something that we're seeing them doing. But again, all I can say in support is that they are reducing the number of options, which is in theory making it simpler to understand and making it easier for you to recognize the value from certain agreements or from certain partners or from Microsoft directly. And this is their modern commerce strategy moving forwards. How does it affect my organization is probably the first question you're asking. It affects your organization in price, which I've mentioned, the price increases, or Microsoft's ability to discount. Fact of the matter is, with price, you're not going to see any more discounts on on-premise products, generally speaking. Maybe if you're an EA customer and you've got a large renewal coming up with a significant investment in Office 365 already, then some of the on-premise products will benefit from that. Maybe if you're using SQL Enterprise or a large data center, then maybe there's some discounting there. But generally speaking, bear in mind, please, that there's no more discounting on on-premise products. There's a shift away from licensing it per device, and many of the discounts and funding is only going to be available on kind of EA or CSP programs. In fact, those other agreements are actually being renewed. With regards to planning, just making sure that EA becomes more valuable than ever, price lock as many products as possible, and don't forget to make sure that you also know your licensing structures as well. So get those locked into the agreements as we move towards this per user subscription model, and technically moving away from that on-premise environment. Make sure you've got a partner that supports that technology and that base that you need to move from maybe 2016 to 2019. So this is something that obviously that Ultima can help with as well. And really, what does that mean for the future? And I've touched upon it a little already in regards to Microsoft streamlining all of their agreements. But really what it means is there's going to be a choice between two agreements. It's the CSP, the cloud solution provider, or EA, the enterprise agreement. And what's the difference between them? What I'll do is I will just build out in this slide and you will see copies of these slides. But effectively, EA for over 500 and CSP for under 500. The CSP can't do everything yet at the moment. It's got most cloud products on there, but not all cloud products. You can't do step ups. If you've got E5, you want to step up. Also, E3, you want to step up to E5. Well, actually, you have to wait till the end of the month and then buy a full E5. And okay, there is some offerings now, but generally speaking, there's no add-on licenses. Or with EA, you can add on, step up, all paths locked, maximum flexibility, all products on premise and cloud. CSP will get there. It will get there, but it's not quite there yet with CSP. No self-provisioning. You send an email, you go to your portal, and the partner does that for you. Whereas EA, you can do it yourself, or you can obviously use your licensing team to help you with that. With EA, billing is always up front for the full year. With CSP, yep, still billing up front invoice, but it can be done monthly, as we say, recently announced, or annually. With CSP, you add licenses at the time, and immediately there's an invoice at the start of the next month. With EA, absolutely, you've still got that true up, that annual license management. You can actually reserve more licenses and defer that payment until anniversary with the EA, and you can then reduce that anniversary, and obviously only at anniversary with EA, whereas with CSP, with monthly, you can kind of go up and down every single month, so much more flexibility. No discounting on the CSP, no tiered pricing on CSP. There's no customization of those use rights on CSP either. Obviously on EA, you do get some customizations via amendment normally, but it's a key point in the negotiation path. You can get some customization of those use rights. Both still 100% governed by the online service terms and those product term documents. So if we think, well, the CSP might well be the future. Things like EA are not going anywhere for the moment, but Select Plus, dying, should be dead by now. Microsoft announced in 2012 Select Plus was disappearing, and here we are in 2018, nearly 2019, and the Select Plus is still actually available if you're transacting on there. So when they said they were moving open an MPSA, you're probably sitting there with a couple of these agreements, maybe just taken one out. The retirement is going to be a long process, rest assured. So you're probably good for another, I wouldn't like to say, but 3 to 5 years would be realistic. And it's really more around CSPs not fit for all of those. As soon as CSP is all of those cloud products available, and perhaps a little bit more of the flexibility and on-premise offering, then we'll see the other agreements truly taken down. But that's certainly what we're talking about here is Microsoft's ongoing strategy and where they're heading for in the future. So thank you very much for your time. If you've got any questions, I've been looking at the questions and see that none have come through, but do please let me know if you have any. Okay, well, thank you very much. And like I say, this has been recorded and the slides will be made available. And please enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.